Did you? That's a good thing.
Lady told me that
Thank you, God.
And then last year,
Scott, if you can get you up to the microphone, that'll help if anybody. One year you forget how the meeting works, right?
yeah. So on the maps, you'll see, and I pull out the 6-year plan and just kind of read through it.
And the adopted 6-year plan should be in the board members' packets.
Yeah, I sent that out. So just a few months ago, we did a public hearing, and you guys,
Paper packet or what packet you talking about?
In the original packet, and if you don't have it,
No.
Cheryl, do you have a hard copy of the, Karen, hold on. I got you, Cheryl.
That last month, the last meeting.
It's on the one they sent out today.
Oh, you want us to pull it out? Okay.
Got it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I got it.
I can
What
see
page
mine.
is it on?
Page 7, 6, and 7.
Six and.
do you need one of the maps, Sarah?
As soon as I log on,
Okay.
I can
I
get it
brought
done.
the street names.
Okay. We may need your assistance there.
You gotta remember where they are.
Yeah.
I didn't pull mine off.
Okay, so if you guys found that,
Yep.
on the map, there's one road that's pink, and that's Dempsey. That's the one that we built last construction season. So anything that's above Dempsey, the 6-year plan still had Miller's Lake Road, 613 is above it. Make sure, that one, Miller's Lake and Dempsey should disappear off the next 6-year plan. Okay. I don't know how strict you guys are. So Dempsey Road and Miller's Lake Road will come off the next 6-year plan because they're complete. But then, working our way down the list is Hidden Lake Road, Copper Hill Road, and Mill Creek Road. And then Bolden Flournoy Road, Whispering Woods Road, Schoolhouse Road, Old Oak Road, Falkland Road, and then the format changes. where they started putting them in as various, and then over in the comment section in fine print, it says the name of the road and it has the limits. So you guys strategically started applying money towards 4 different routes 2 years ago, but they're Route 625 from Holiday Lake Road to 0.3 miles east of Holiday Lake Road. Then Route 647 from Route 630 Red Shop Road to 0.3 miles southeast of Red Shop Road. Then 611 from Route 13 Miller Lake Road to 0.3 miles east of Miller Lake Road. And then Route 668 from Route 664 Morris Creek Road to 0.3 miles northeast of Morris Creek Road. 625 from 0.3 miles. Well, that looks like for some reason 625 got on the list 2 times there. I think that's incorrect, but I'll make sure that gets checked. And then the next year we were able to add 3/4 of a mile to those same 4 routes, picking up where we left off. So it'd be 625, 647, 611, and 668 again, just from that one termini, adding another 0.75 miles. So then the funding looks the same for the year 27 that's coming. So we should be able to add a total of 3 more miles to the plan, which if you divide that 4 ways like we did last year would be another 3/4 of a mile on each of those routes. But I guess this is where we could just have open discussion, and you guys ultimately make the 6-year plan. I just kind of do the programming and facilitation.
Scott, do we know what the residual of each of those 4 identified roads are that still need to be
I
surfaced?
actually don't have their length with me, but I don't think that we'll have 3/4 of a mile won't be. They're all longer than 3/4 of a mile left to program.
I mean, it would seem kind of silly to leave a few hundred feet.
Oh,
on
yeah,
one
yeah.
Just because of an arbitrary number, and I didn't know if we were close on any of them.
No, I don't believe we're that close on any of them, but trying to think, definitely did not bring the list I have that has the length.
I had a request
Yes, sir.
off of 668. Sarah, what was he doing, a wedding venue, Junction Canal Road?
Yes, sir. Was it Concrete Lane or Junction Canal Road?
Yeah, it's all kind of connected right in there.
Yes, sir.
Right
That's
near
on
Bell.
682.
682.
It's Chris Concrete. I've been out there twice, I think,
Yeah.
on Junction Canal. I think there might be a private road, Concrete Lane or something that ties into
The Junction Canal is the main road, I think.
Yeah, so it sounds like he's reached out to his supervisor
He did several times.
to politics.
Your supervisor reached out to you, Sarah.
Yeah. And he does, I have to admit, I was impressed with his business back
Oh, yeah.
there. It was like, I would have never expected it to be there. He's got a nice business.
Scott, what's the total mileage? I know you and I haven't had a chance to ride around because of the COVID rules yet. Hopefully we'll be able to, at least by the summer. What is the total mileage of secondary roads and then the mileage of unpaved for Prince Edward? Do you know that off the top of your head, or?
It may be on this map.
Unpaved, I think, isn't it?
I hate to,
And you can get that to me later.
yeah, I hate to guess at it, but we got,
Was it you and me talking, Sarah? It was 90 miles of unpaved left in the county? That's been 3 or 4 months ago.
it's on the map here. I'm trying to see what date this was printed. Unimproved roads is 28 miles. looks like gravel, 105 miles. About 2 minutes. Yeah, 294 miles of paved. But I think I have it with me. I didn't make copies for everybody. You guys could pass it around. This is Troy Walker. He was small projects engineer in the Farmville residency. He actually does a lot of the programming, works with the programmers, manages the work while it's going on, and then closes the projects out when they're complete. So I felt like he should be part of the conversation tonight.
What do we need you for?
I may not be here next time.
Yeah, but 647, Scott, 647 off, Red
Rice
Shop.
Creek Road, yes, sir.
Yeah, Rice Creek Road. Now, it's not my intent to pave that, tar and gravel that road entirely,
Okay,
okay? Because I think the thought was to take it down to the bridge, to the train, I think it's a train track down there, railroad crossing.
okay,
And then, we can pick it up on the other end. But a lot of there is just dead, it's no man's land.
yeah,
And I'd rather take that, do that tar and gravel and put it on the road that can be, have a greater impact.
yeah. On the map, there's a little blue line. That's probably the bridge you're talking
I think
about.
it's a bridge or I think it's a bridge down there. Right there, same road where the two guys, they went and, co-rescue.
It's in that creek bottom.
But yeah,
Rice Creek.
Rice
Yeah.
Creek is a bottom, but take it there and then my plan is to shift that to somewhere, those resources somewhere else.
Okay,
Okay, now, I don't know if what we are about to approve will take me to that level, that point. I think it is, or it can be very close.
okay. Well, I can measure that road. Like, I can start at the red shop, sick end of it, and measure to
Measure
there
down to that creek or
to
that
figure
bridge.
that out.
Yeah, that'll be, that's where I wanna, that's the plan, okay?
Yeah,
Then I can move, shift those resources somewhere else.
Scott, on 751, or just the part that you have highlighted, is that all that they're gonna do right now? Is that correct? At Hidden Lake Road?
Hidden Lake Road, 6 of 11, or wait, 613.
No, it's 685 and 751.
Oh, up here.
It's odd how that is.
Okay. Yeah, I think there's a power line or something there. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it starts right around this sharp curve. I mean, the highlighting is not the exact limits. The written on the 6-year plan would be,
So are they gonna, as far as you know, they're gonna start where it is paved now and come out towards 460?
that's my understanding. I'm trying to pull it. Two and a half. Is that this one here?
Paved on the other, on the Sulphur Springs.
Correct.
0.9 miles north of 657 to Route 685.
Paved all the way to Steve Hospital,
Yeah.
Steve Hospital's house,
Okay.
end right there. Right there to his driveway going into Hidden Lake.
On the 6-year plan, it says, Route 751, rural rustic, from 0.9 miles north of 657 to Route 685. So I think if you come up off of 657, you gotta go up 0.9 miles, and that's probably the portion that's already hard surface.
And then
Start there and go.
They're gonna do it out to 685 as far as you know.
Yeah, that's what it says
Okay.
here,
So
0.9 miles north of 657 to 685. What's that?
that makes the whole length of that road hard surface.
That should be, yes.
Because it was paved on each end, and then we had the landowner issue in the middle.
Right,
Which if it still needs to be that way, there's a section there that no one lives. if we have to split it up, I would certainly ask that they do where everyone lives, because that's the people that are complaining.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it's at the board's pleasure, but the limits of it right now is that 0.9 miles north of 657 to 685. I think it's the whole portion that's left. We should be starting work on that soon, so once we spend money on it, that's the point where you can't change anything anymore, so. I've only been here 2 years, but I do know when you do half of a road, it tends to make the other half of the residents on that road mad.
Yeah. It does.
Scott,
Yes, ma'am.
may I mention consideration, I don't know if it would be on the 6-year plan, but the entrance to the road is nicely gravelled and then it goes very dusty. Mud Dusty Road, that's off Farmer Road, 759.
759.
Mud Dusty Road. You have this beautiful entrance, and then it gets to be quite ugly.
It sounds like that road would have to be renamed if it was to be.
But that's the official name. Bro, you know where it is.
Hard asphalt road.
And one more consideration now. During my town hall meetings, and you've been a part of those, this road has been in the news for a long time. Mill Scott Road in Hampton, Sydney. Highway 1006.
1006.
The interest is fine. It's all 692 in Hampton, Sydney, right across from Mercy Seat Church.
Okay. What was the street address one more time?
1006,
Okay.
and that's off 692 Hampton, Sydney.
Okay.
It's on your inset of your map on the left over there.
Okay, gotcha. I wrote it down. So I can try to measure Rice Creek Road real quick on Google Earth to see where that bridge is mileage wise.
While you're looking at, Scott, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, one of the things I did in my past job was sat down with the board. We were frustrated at lack of funding from VDOT and trying to get roads advanced. And we'd sit there and watch them, they'd sit on the list and sit on the list. And we had residents come in and say, my road's been on the 6-year plan for 30 years. So what we started doing, and we started the first year putting about 50,000 aside, then we worked up to we were putting about a penny's worth. And the last probably 8 years, about 250,000 a year. We'd go to the VDOT revenue sharing and get that match dollar for dollar. If, for instance, if we put up 150,000, get VDOT to match that, that would give us $300,000 a year. You double what you're doing currently, because right now you're paving or tar and chipping about 2 miles, Scott, a year, I think.
2 to 3.
2 to 3.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, that 2 to 3 would be 4 to 6 miles per year. It'd be about the equivalent of a penny, but we were able to get a lot more bang for our buck and show the residents scattered throughout the county. We would always sit down and like y'all do, we would try to make sure every district got road money and try to spread it around. But then we started seeing the ability to make a difference. And it's something that we can talk about when we get to the capital improvement plan. Like, I know this year is a revenue sharing year. It's only every 2 years you apply for it. But it's something that if paving and upgrading roads is a priority and we want to move it faster, that's about the only way I know to make it move faster, is to put some skin in the game from the county standpoint. And it would go through the normal channels, but it would, that additional money would flow through as revenue sharing funds, and they could advance stuff on the list.
I'm just saying.
One time I remember, one time I think Hampton City served, then Hampton City put money in the backs. But,
And we're talking to them about the manor, Beverly, at the last CDA meeting, talking about the entrance out there, turn lanes, about the partners out there in the CDA putting up some money. That's another opportunity, but,
Have they ever figured out if that road is built to spec, the state take over?
so Hampton Sydney is engaged, Maxi Engineering, they're currently doing that survey right now to look at both the entrance and there's that hill, because everybody's been worried about that hill and whether or not it meets the slope requirements for VDOT to be accepted into the state system, so.
When it's supposed to, quality of the paving job be questionable, but
Yeah, I heard that as well, and the quality of the stone, the depth of the stone. And so they've gone out and done core samples. I haven't seen, I didn't know this till I got into it, but the town crews are actually the ones that constructed the road. I didn't know that. Because I talked to Robin over at the Town Public Works. They're looking at all those issues. But the other thing is they're going to need north and southbound turn lanes going into the manor ultimately to be able to handle the traffic in there. So they're probably going to come and ask us for some, to apply for revenue sharing funding to get that number down. But, yeah, I think it just, if, it's a shame, this, years ago, y'all probably got $1.5 million, $2 million in VDOT funding for secondary, that the pot keeps shrinking.
stabilized later, yeah, it was a whole lot more. It hadn't gone up.
2579.
Well, and luckily, we're just tar and chipping. If you were trying to do a fully paved road, you'd never be able to afford it.
It's not.
Best thing you've done lately is the rural rustic, where it doesn't take so much, prepping the road.
Prepping, that's right.
What's that, or anything?
No, if they had to go back and redo it all.
Oh, nothing, yeah.
Still more roads in Ventura County, what you would imagine is still dirt.
Yeah.
Your way and on out, my way through Gary.
Yeah. Gary Fikes visited us.
That's
Oh,
right.
I have the most unpaved road in the county.
ever heard you say
First time for it.
Yeah.
I just wanna remind
All
y'all.
roads are paved.
No, you don't, Ro.
Let's see.
You should.
Totally think it is on that traffic.
I got a few,
I have quite a few,
Gary, I got a few too.
quite a few.
Leave District got 'em, man.
David,
Yeah.
seven,
Mountain Creek
eight,
Road, that's,
the one that
I ain't
goes
even
down
got
by
started
Bobby
working on that
Fulton.
one yet.
Then you get over towards,
the young man
Schultz
that
Mill,
was
but
here,
yeah,
Mr.
you
Bruce,
State Farm, Schultz Mill.
he's on a different road, isn't it?
Yeah, about that.
White
Yeah, I
Oak.
should have it in just a second.
He was asking about his here a while
Tell me
back.
your route number.
647.
That's a different road though.
That's right. Now, Old Oak is in,
That's the one
that's
he
in your
lived,
district,
yeah,
but it's right there at my house.
that's right.
Here we go.
It's weird
this
how
one
that-
is-
I mean,
So
that's a strange place right there, how that,
3.7
And Bobby's is in your
miles?
district.
that's correct.
Okay.
Am I reading that
That's
right?
correct.
It's 2 segments for some reason.
Yeah. So one of them is from
It's actually the 678 is the
That's
one.
right, that's right.
It's right after you cross back over the bypass.
Oh, yeah, from 630 to Rolling Acres and then from Rolling Acres to Red Shop, so it's a total of
Neither one of 'em are very
3.7
long.
miles.
Yeah. He's right
I
at the
was
bridge right
really
now. We're
surprised
at
that Old Oak
1.16
had enough
to here, starting from there, measuring it out.
occupants.
It's not many.
So he'd have to at least.
3, if I remember right.
Yeah, I'm still
Yeah,
surprised
that's
that it
right.
has
You know,
enough
you
to
might
qualify.
jump right
It's
over
just amazing to me that
Kind of reach those thresholds.
This young man's all the way at the end, and they've been hauling logs over there,
Versus
wet weather ain't done him any
to
good.
make the roads a stopping point makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, may just have to kind of look at it based on
So measuring it on Google Earth, starting at 630 Red Shop Road to get to the bridge is 1.16, just roughly measuring it on Google Earth. And right now we have 1.05 on there, so you'd have to add, a little bit of funding to get to the bridge. We normally figure like $140,000 per mile, so it's, $15,000. Add a 10, 14,000.
Seems like that would be a good cutoff point or junction point and take it to the bridge.
Yeah, Rice Creek is kind of one of those roads where all the houses.
On one,
that
is that on both
one-
ends?
There is a kind of uninhabited part there in the middle. The whole road, I think Sarah said, was 3.7 miles long. So it's a long road, low volume. I don't know what the other end, if the density picks back up on the other end.
Which parts of the tar, gravel on the opposite end? Come out on the Hearn Road?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know if there's any houses over there.
it is, it is. We'll, think we'll cut off at the bridge and pick up on the opposite end, come in.
Okay,
Have
yeah,
the greatest impact, instead of, like I say again,
So
you know,
the addresses start at the other end, and so there are three houses in the first half mile on the other end, and then you go
there's another road that branch off
pretty
that.
good distance, you go another half a mile before you get to the fourth house that
Right.
has a Rice Creek. You know, that little road,
To the right?
yeah, that's where you had one year said, let's make sure we got
Yeah.
paid to that secondary road off, which is Rolling Acres,
I think that's it.
I think. Yes, sir, Rolling Acres, and there are, it looks like 4 or 5 houses
On
on
the-
Rolling Acres.
See, I think that's what I wanna do, is stop at the bridge and pick up on the other end.
catch the middle last, if
Yeah,
anything.
if anything, yeah.
Okay.
Scott,
Yes, sir.
I know that the governor's got billions coming out of the budget for the train deal from Richmond to Washington and whatnot. But is there a chance down the road of us getting this Third Street ramp back on the agenda or not? mean,
I don't
realistically.
know I mean, I would apply for it every year, you know, I think it is a worthy project that I thought it had a great chance this year with an emphasis being on
It was
economic
like completely
development.
off.
But yeah, and it stayed in the running a long time, but, the Smart Scale program, it's like, I compare it to the Olympics, where you could set a world record 4 years ago, and then you could, you know, go up against different athletes next year and come in last place, the next time and come in last place. So there was a lot of other great candidates, I guess, applied for it, but I would apply every year. You never know which year it'll get funded.
You say every year, but it's really every 2 years, right?
Yeah,
Scott?
I guess that's right.
So
Every
next year will
cycle
be the
every
recycle,
round.
yeah.
So it did switch over to every other year after the first year or two, round or two.
So Scott, this year, so Hidden Lake Road and Copper Hill should be tarred and gravel this year?
I think we'll probably work on the first 3 after Dempsey Road this year. It's kind of a lofty goal, but
So you
So
said
Hidden
Hidden Lake,
Lake-
Copper Hill, and Mill Creek?
yeah, Hidden Lake, Copper Hill, and Mill Creek I think we'll do at least grading and drainage work and maybe add stone to all those routes. Hopefully get them all shot, you know, it kind of depends on weather.
Sound promising.
Yeah.
A
Where,
little bit over your mileage you used to do though, isn't it? 4.3 miles?
yeah, it just
Yeah.
depends, you know. Right now, we got like 5 vacancies in the Hampton-Sydney, area headquarters. So, you know, our staffing numbers and the weather, and there's a lot of variables, you know, when you're planning work. But, we're gonna get what we can get.
I think everybody's looking for help.
Yeah,
I'm not
Is
kidding.
that in management or,
they're in the operator level, so. But yeah, I mean, we're gonna get some work done this year. We can always, you know, shift staff around when needed. It's kind of common to do that with,
you guys did a good job with Dempsey Road.
yeah,
Yeah.
Dempsey turned
Done.
out great. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, they done a really good job with that.
Yeah.
Is 780, is that Old Oak Road?
Let me see, 780.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So that should be on the 6-year plan, correct?
It is. Yeah,
But it's not marked on here as,
I thought I got them all. I have it marked on mine. I actually wrote the road names on mine.
is it on there, Bobby?
Yeah,
Okay.
scroll on down a little bit.
Yeah, 780's on there.
Okay, all right.
Sorry about that. I must have just slipped when I did that one. Old Oak Road from 648 to the dead end. It's several years out though before that one will be constructed.
That's good.
Sorry about that, Lou, but
It's just not, I mean, I realize it somehow made the cut, but it's not that many people live on that road.
Okay, yeah.
I'm still baffled as to how it made the cut.
So I brought, last year I had made copies of this, but this road has all the roads that have over 50 cars per day on it. We could pass it around. So,
And that's the threshold, correct?
yeah, I mean, it makes the most sense to spend the money where you have the traffic. So I think that traditionally, everybody's always used 50 cars per day as a threshold.
I think what David had made the comment the last time we discussed this about trying to do longer sections, we could maybe get a better deal with the contractor if he wasn't doing such short pieces, for moving equipment from one to the other.
Yeah.
If we could
Which,
do a
I
little
mean, we do
longer.
a lot of the work with our own forces
Yeah.
on these. We have the option to hire somebody to do them, but, you typically get more for your money doing it with your own forces.
Right, right. But if you're working a longer section, instead of doing a little bit here and then we'll quit and go beyond the next week, quit go over there, maybe we could finish a section.
Right, yeah. With
A
these
little
roads that we've been chipping away at, I feel like when we build them, we'll build them the entire limits that we have funding allocated for them. I agree with what you're saying.
Doug, what I passed you is from Jack Houghton, and the envelope is yours to keep, and it verifies that she lied. And the other is all the minutes and whatnot.
I'll make sure he gets it back.
So I guess I'll just ask the question to maybe move things along, so to speak, but do you guys want to just stick with what we've done in past years and add to it? Or do you want to revisit any of the existing routes on the plan?
I think we'll stick with the ones we've done, because there are times we have jumped away from those, because maybe there was some road that needed, for a reason, needed a priority.
Yeah, like, the thing that I had in mind was the gentleman on Junction Canal Road is running a business. That might be a priority, but it may not. I don't, it's not my decision to make, but the only roads that we've worked on are the only ones that are locked in stone. After we spend money on it, we won't take it off the plan, but anything that's on there, it's only in paper, you can adjust how you see fit.
I personally agree with Bob, and like I say, that some people on the board don't have any roads in their district that aren't paved, and it's understandable, but I think we'll do a lot better if we'll stick with this and get these done. And then add to it maybe next year, just because we see what the funding comes up to, and if, like what Doug said, if we can see where that will help us, something we can work towards, putting some money towards, or something else to get more of them,
Yeah,
more of them completed.
okay, so I guess that answers that question. I mean, it's the board.
I would make a motion that we approve the 6-year plan as written.
I'll second.
Been properly made and seconded, Ms. Pride,
Yes.
myself, yes, Patty,
Yes.
Beverly?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Bobby?
Yeah.
Gary?
Yes.
Lou?
Yes.
Okay, and then,
This is actually to propose advertising.
Right.
Right.
well,
This is
There-
approved.
There's public hearing.
yeah, but, so now, we don't want to change what we already have, but we do have more funding now to allocate new routes. Like, we can add some routes, or some routes,
Okay.
like we have been. Like, the funding is real close this year to Let me see here. $346,000, so we had the same number last year, so that's about adding 3 miles is what I broke up last year 4 ways, which was 3/4 of a mile on each one of those routes. So we can add some now. Now that we know we don't want to change what's already there, we can add
We can add more.
to the end of the 6 years.
Well, you already said that you were gonna need a little bit to go to the bridge, correct?
Yeah, so I was figuring that would be
Okay,
something that we would add.
and then whatever else, we can start at the other end and
Come back,
Come
yeah.
back.
So so that would, if you want to say that as a board, you're gonna add 3/4 of a mile on Rice Creek,
Yeah.
then we'll have 2 1/4 mile left to
To plan
figure out where
options.
else.
Yeah.
Okay.
Miss Pride isn't giving up hers, Jerry.
No, I like consideration of that too, no. And they are very short. Yes.
I'm not giving up mine.
Don't even try, Jerry.
I tell you what, y'all can have all
The
of mine.
last,
All right, Bob, it's been time for me and you and Lou to get in here.
Finish the 4 roads.
no.
So I think the question the board probably would want to consider first is, do they want to add that additional 340-some thousand
All
to
to-
the current 4 roads that they have identified?
That's what I'm assuming you were speaking of.
Well, yeah, so
Yeah,
we
right.
talked about Rice Creek. I was about to say, are you gonna do that to Featherfin and Hidden, or,
Yeah, the same 4
the
roads. you
same
got.
4 roads?
I think
Yeah.
that's the understanding,
Just
that's
stay
my
the
understanding
course?
anyway.
Okay. So,
Until you finish those 4.
Till you finish them out.
So those are the 4 roads that you want to represent
Yeah.
in the 6-year plan that we'll take to public hearing.
Yes,
Yes.
Yeah.
yes.
okay,
Year 6 on the end to finish it out.
Does that make sense?
yeah, so we'll just do what we did last year. We'll break it up 4 ways, add it to the same 4 routes. We'll get a draft plan for the public hearing showing that.
The way you see it right now, let's just take for instance Hidden Lake, that should be completed this year.
What's the length on Hidden Lake? Did you have that?
What's that route number?
Hidden Lake is
751.
751 is
611.
2.03.
Says 2.15, but
It's 2.22 miles.
but is it 2.22 miles that is unpaved?
Oh, it's.
No, that's the
it's
total
not-
distance.
That's what I
I
thought.
got the wrong 6-year
I don't think that section of unpaved is very long in the middle.
plan. Hidden Lake. I think, oh, you, Hidden Lake,
It's not very long
1.3?
from that sharp curve
Yeah.
back to the convenience center.
it shows that we're gonna do 1.3 miles.
1.3.
Yeah,
What it is.
well, that'd be all of it then.
I was confusing that with 611, which I think is that Miller's Lake?
Holiday Lake.
Holiday,
Oh, they let,
yeah.
No, that's 625. Miller Lake is 611. We got lots of lakes and lots of.
Yeah.
lakes.
Yeah, the 4 that you guys have been adding to every year is 611, 625 Featherfin, 668, and 647 Rice Creek.
Did that take care of your roads, Dr. Fry?
Chinkopin is on the current
Not
6-year, but it's not close.
I agree with completed.
You and I were talking about that earlier. According to this right here, it is.
That only shows, roads that are eligible.
Ah.
Those are the roads that have over 50 cars per day.
So if you think you've got anything extra left, Dr. Pryde's got a couple roads for you to,
But,
Scott, could you at some point do me a favor?
yes,
Do
ma'am.
the number of cars on those 2 that I've requested. Mud
Yes, that's-
Dusty, and that is the official name.
Yeah,
of
Mud
the road.
Dusty Road,
759,
yeah, Sarah has that.
and Mill Scott,
70.
759.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
And then Mill Scott is 1006, 1006.
That
So that doesn't meet this.
Twenty nineteen, is there a 2020?
I don't think it's out yet.
So Mud Dusty would meet the requirements.
Okay, what was Mud Dusty?
But-
Mud Dusty is 70.
Okay.
Vehicles per day, and Mill Scott is 40.
Okay.
Doesn't meet.
Yes.
You can pull that up?
Yes, sir.
I normally bring that, and I got stuck in Lynchburg longer than I thought.
What you got, David?
I'll tell you, but I don't, 680.
is Allen Mill
That's correct.
Road 30.
I just had some people call, and I told them I was sure that it didn't have enough traffic to begin with, but
Build 2 houses.
What about Mountain Creek?
What route number is that?
I'm not sure. Hold on.
661 has been completed, hasn't it? It's not,
661?
yeah, that was Nursery Road, it's still showing gravel on this map.
Yeah, Troy's saying, yeah, that was
628?
That was finished last year, year before.
the year before.
Mountain Creek is 628, that's correct.
That's a long road,
It
too.
is a long road. So Mountain Creek is in 3 sections because it is
So part's paved.
4, 5, almost 6 miles long. 2 sections have 100 and one has 90 vehicles per day. From Schultz Mill to 632 is 100, from 632 to Timber Lake is 100, from Timber Lake to Lee Mountain is 90, so it's,
That's a long road, man.
it's a
Sarah, look up 780 for me, please, man. That's the one that I just can't believe would have enough traffic.
780 is Old Oak, it has 90. There's like, I've looked at that road before, there's like 10 or 15 houses in that road.
It's only 3 houses, that's exactly what they've done. I know that,
It has to be, if it's enough for 3 houses on.
But that's
Isn't
what
there like
happened,
10 or
there's a
15
calendar.
houses on that?
3.
No, I think it's, I
Unless-
think there've been more, hold on, just, I've looked at that road before because, see, I've got the county GIS up too.
Well, I guess 2 of those can come out on hard times, so that's, I guess they have an entrance both ways, so they could come in or out. I consider them coming off a hard time.
Old Oak. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then
Come
there's
back on this
one
thing, figure out where
with an
the
Old Oak address that could have an
existing
entrance
stops,
on
and we'll just add
Courthouse.
going.
That road goes further back down than I realized.
This road.
Been a long
Some
time
of them are
since I've
shorter
been down
than
there.
Still, that's 9 vehicles per house, 9
I guess
trips a
whichever
day.
one
That's,
is
The average is
shortest,
10.
build that first, 'cause it'll be fully funded first.
Scott,
Yes, sir.
ITE Trip Generation Manual, latest edition, homes, trips per day per house, is it still close to like 9, 10 trips per day?
Yeah, when you don't have it in front of you, you just use 10 most of the time.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. My road doesn't have, I think there's 13 lots in my subdivision and only about 7 of them are built, but it says that my road has like 180, but there's 3 businesses on the start of it. That's- I guess they figure the mailman and
UPS.
2 people going to
FedEx,
work,
all that,
FedEx,
yeah.
UPS,
I guess that makes a difference this day and time.
yeah.
UPS and FedEx, it's-
Amazon
A
deliveries.
lot of trips.
Fuel truck deliveries, whatever else, yeah.
So, well, we've come up with a good plan now. I guess we just have to get the draft together. Should we figure the public hearing? We could do it in either May or June.
We will need the draft in order to run the ad.
Okay.
The ad says that the draft is available for review, so,
Probably plan for the June meeting.
we can do that, yeah.
Okay, so I'll get you, we'll get with programming and get it drafted up and we'll get that to you.
What's,
Yeah.
when do you need the board to have an adopted plan? It used to be you wanted it by June, but I know COVID, everything keep pushing things back, but
Yeah, we like to have it approved in June so that we
Okay.
can do our part with it by July 1st is our fiscal year. So
Okay.
as long as we do it in June, it works out fine.
so we could have a public hearing in our meeting in June and
Yeah.
consider it.
That'll be June the 8th,
June 8th, okay.
7:30.
7:30 PM? Okay, that works for me. The other thing I'll mention is last year, we came up with dedicating the safety money towards 604 Abilene Road to do a 2-foot widening on each side. And we are gonna be starting that probably sometime in May after we do our first mowing cycle. But that, like, just refreshing everybody's memory, to get the whole Prince Edward County section that's narrow, it's gonna take 2 years of that funding. So we're planning to do the same thing next year too.
So when you start, Scott, how far do you think you're going down on 604? To what point?
Right now, we're gonna start at Darlington Heights, and we're gonna go a mile, and we're gonna see what that looks like money-wise, and if we can go further, we're gonna go further.
Okay.
But, our plan is to do a mile to start out, and then, the money doesn't get lost if we don't use it, it stays dedicated to the county, so we can always save and, use it the next year when we pick back up. The first work you'll see is gonna be, we're gonna do a mile on one side and turn around and come back, and we'll see how the money turns out.
To Allen Farm Road, how far is that? I think that's a little bit more than a mile.
I don't know off the.
That's where we made that 50 miles per hour? That's where it began?
665 to Allen Farm Road. Make sure I find Allen Farm.
So,
That's 660, 686.
to almost that
Should
mile
be
and a
down
half,
here.
Dr. Craig.
Okay.
1.72, I'm sorry, 2.5.
Is this one 665?
You got 1.77 and 0.29 and 0.42 in segments.
Okay, so it might go to Throckmorton Store.
Yeah, we're gonna
Might
start
not
here
go
from
that
coming
far.
this way, but we gotta figure out where Allen Farm's at.
I don't think you're gonna make it.
How far, no, it probably won't make it to Lakeside. No. Okay.
No, ma'am, I don't think so. Lakeside's right about 2 miles.
Oh, no. Okay.
I'm reading the segments right.
Okay.
Maybe a little more than half to, a little more than halfway to Farmview,
Okay,
which is 706.
okay. That'll help.
Yeah, that's already a mile.
Scott, how much are you adding to each side of the road?
2.78. 2 feet on each side.
2 feet?
Yeah.
That'll help a lot.
So once we get all the widening work done, we're gonna put it on the surface treatment schedule and we'll surface treat it. So nice uniform looking road, we'll do fresh stripes. It'll look just like the section that got done in Charlotte County.
Okay.
So,
I sure wish there was a safe way to do a groundbreaking or ribbon cutting or shovel something on Abilene Road
when
for as much discussion as there is.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not sure there's anywhere safe for people to gather for Dr. Pride to be able to put a shovel in the ground.
Throckmorton Store.
Yeah, that's, but if we're starting at the intersection of Darlington Heights.
All right, we don't go that far.
There,
Sarah, what was that road you just said? A View,
Lakeside.
Font View? No, it's before Lakeside.
Route
Farmview.
706.
Right.
I mean, it's-
That might be a good spot.
the intersection of Darlington Heights and Abilene.
Okay.
I guess everybody could,
There's an open field on the the right-hand side right there.
That's true.
That's where the last two bad accidents have been. I wouldn't,
you wouldn't,
they come around the curve too fast.
Go to Grand East.
I was just saying camera is right.
Oh, yeah, the Prince Edward County Fair.
Where to be, needs a paving on that.
Really?
That's a rough place.
I will make a comment, whenever we fix these roads and make them wide and smooth and nice, just like the Five Forks Road, we make a racetrack out of it then.
Yeah, that's,
We gotta keep the speed limit signs down.
yeah.
Because when we finally fix that road, there's a lot of traffic from Hampton Sydney to Lynchburg. You know what I'm talking about? And Abilene Road is
Oh, yeah.
known for that.
Yeah, but we can certainly, since we're making that change, we can run it through traffic engineering. Again, that road's been studied to death, like,
Oh, yes.
yeah. And there is a section now that's 50 miles per hour that resulted from one of those studies.
Yes.
But I do agree, the nicer you make it, the faster people will go.
Yes, sir.
Scott, do y'all have any of the electronic speed limit signs that say you speed limit 55, then below that is it's basically a gun, but it's a digital board that shows how fast you're going? Those tend to work to slow people down when it's flashing 70 on a 55.
Yeah, the Farmville residency doesn't, I could ask around and see if we have any in the district or maybe at the state level that we could borrow, but most of the ones I see have some sheriff's department, you know.
Those are I'm talking about the ones that are permanent, mounted on a pole with a solar unit. And they're pretty simple. They're not that big anymore. Yeah, certainly the speed trailers are those are great.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about now. I haven't seen VDOT do any of those. I think those may also be funded by localities where you see them.
Well, if you just get some information, I think that'd be good, because I think it does help in some situations. It reminds people, and they intuitively slow down when they see it starts flashing that they're above the speed limit, but.
is that a legitimate safety project?
That I don't know. Yeah, I could check
Yeah,
it.
Appomattox, as soon as you go through Appomattox, they right there, both sides.
You slow down.
Yeah, you see where you speeding.
Yeah. Some of them even have a little blue light in them that flashes that I think just gets that mind thing going to make people slow down.
But Doug, I think that would be something great to look into, because you have such a heavy flow of traffic from Charlotte County coming into Prince Edward. So I think it would be good to look into it.
Yeah.
The town's got some of them. I know there's one over on Second Avenue right now,
Yeah,
but
they on the.
I go through and it alerts you.
That road is kind of funny. The majority of the traffic is on this end. There's 2,000 vehicles per day near Granny B's area. But over in Charlotte County toward Charlotte Courthouse, it's only 700. So
But those are your commuters that are flying
going all the way
Right.
through, yeah,
through every day, back and forth.
so,
A lot of traffic off of Darlington Heights Road, coming in and going back.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of roads that feed it on this end. So, well, I think we have everything we need to do the programming work and get you the draft. I don't know if I can turn the work session back over to Mr. Stanley or the board. If you guys have any more questions, we're certainly happy to answer them.
I haven't heard any more questions from the board, Mr. Scott.
Nope.
I guess more than just a 6-year plan, if there's anything, any other roads that, while he's here tonight, it's a good time to catch him up if there's anything that, any other roads need to be worked on or looked at. If not, thanks,
Okay,
Scott.
no problem. I wrote down a note about Chinkopin. We'll check that tomorrow.
Appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
Thank you,
Thank you
Scott.
for all y'all do.
Oh, yeah, thank you guys. You guys are a good board to work with.
And,
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Nice having you tonight.
and Mr. Chairman, if y'all just, at some point, give me some direction, whether or not that's something we want to consider, even if it's a small amount, but trying to look at putting something in the capital improvement budget for revenue sharing match. Again, it's a dollar for dollar match. It's a 2-year cycle. I think this summer is the next opportunity, but then that'll happen again in '23 and '25. You can apply for funds. You don't have to accept them until the board decides it wants to fund it, but it may be a way to speed up some of the worst locations for you.
One lady live on that sheet. Now,
We got a lot
you
of
were
those
home
small things,
Scott, could you give me like a hit list of here's the top five segments that had the most traffic on them in the county that are unpaved?
Yeah, we can do that. I don't have it prepared this
No,
time.
and just like kind of the distance estimated cost. That would help us a little bit with
Okay,
some of that discussion on revenue sharing.
yeah, I'd be happy to. I think when the recession happened, the revenue sharing stuff kind of went away, but now it seems like it's starting to, more and more talk, but it was a good program.
And they, was it 50 million statewide at one point? I don't know if they're trying to get back up to 100, but, you know, the problem is you get the Northern Virginia localities that try to apply, but they limit each locality now, so it leads enough for the smaller counties to be able to get access to the dollars. And the other thing is maybe you ask for 100,000 and they'll approve 60% of it, so everybody gets a smaller piece of the pie, but I know there even out in the Shenandoah Valley, places like Shenandoah and Frederick County, a lot of those counties try to augment their secondary funding by applying for a little bit of revenue sharing just to give some additional oomph to their annual budget and get some of those roads off the list.
Okay, well, definitely thank the
Thank you
board
all.
for its time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you, Walt.
We got a little time, Mr. Chairman, you want to take a little recess or?
Yes, I guess we're gonna just recess until 7 minutes to the full.
Mr. Stanley, what's the temperature in here?
Please enter your access code followed. Welcome to the Prince Edward County Conference Line. Please stand by. You'll be joined in shortly.
All right, this time we're gonna reconvene for the budget hearing. Doug is coming around for our, I guess this will be on the real estate tax, EMS levy, and the Poplar Hill CDA. Turn it over to you, Doug.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And Cheryl, if you can bring up the PowerPoint. And actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give, our presentation will cover information for both public hearings. As you mentioned, we have to have a separate public hearing on the real estate levy, the EMS levy, and the Poplar Hill CDA levy, and then we'll have another hearing on our budget. Let's see here. So what you have tonight is proposed, again, public hearings on the county's real estate tax rate levy, the Poplar Hill CDA levy, and our EMS levy, and also the proposed FY 21-22 budget.
Is that a problem?
Bear with me, just, Mr. Chairman, I'm trying to advance my cursor. It looks like they're trying to get that up on YouTube.
No problem.
It's not advancing, Trey. Bear with me, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
You did give him 3 minutes too, right?
Yes, sir. You see him right there,
Hey, you
don't
see
you?
that big clock, don't you?
That's exactly right.
That is smooth.
You were hard on the side electric guy,
I was.
What do you have, 15, you gave him 12?
Yep. I kind of knew beforehand they could do it in 10, so that's the reason why I gave them. Have you seen the Osmos people out? Have you seen the Osmos people, the ones that are supposed to walk lines?
Right, yeah. Yeah, they're right on my phone today. Perfect, what the world is this?
Then it clicked, that's, yeah.
You got signatures from either Oliver Stiff or Cornell Walker yet?
I haven't, but I haven't got.
Both of them will sign it, I know, Oliver's the buddy.
I haven't got it from Mr. Peacock yet.
You're not gonna get it.
I don't think I'd go there.
I'll stay off that property as much as possible.
They both helped me last time you ran against Calvin. I was getting my car worked on, over at Pro Auto across from the library one day. And I went over to the library and read a magazine, came back, I know, getting inspected. And, I went up and said, is the car ready for Wilk? And this guy comes out of the back room and said, did I hear you say your name was Wilk? I said, well, he said, I work with a guy, he said, gotta be one of my best friends, we hunted and fished together all the time, his name was Joe Wilk. And I said, yeah. I said, I got an uncle named Joe Wilk and a cousin named Joe Wilk. His cousin wasn't. He said, we were best friends. He said, we hunted and fished together all the time and so forth. And so ever since then, he's a good friend of mine. But on different things that, like asking him on that, and he's asked me for a couple things, not much, I can tell you. He's done more for me than I've done for him. He had a 50, I don't know if Penny went to this or not, but he had a 50-year deal for his business. And it was cocktails, seated dinner, entertainment, and he must have had 100 people there. And it must have cost him an absolute mint.
Right.
Anyway, we were honored to be included in the group and so forth. But I went to him about you and voting on the calendar. And then also, his cousin was running for the school board. And I went to him and I said, Oliver, I said, for the first time, I'm gonna get a chance to pay you back. And I went up to the church where she was having a meeting and so forth. And I told her, I said, you know, you and David ought to get together and so forth.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I think we're back up and running. Sorry about that.
No problem. Or you thought it was up and running?
No, you're fine.
There you go.
Just turn around and do it to that one.
All right, here we go. So tonight, we've got a public hearing on the tax levy for the real estate, EMS, and Poplar Hill CDA. And then at 7:30, we've got a public hearing on the rest of the budget and tax rates. On April 27th at 7 PM will be the consideration of the rest of the budget pursuant to section 15.2-2506 of the Code of Virginia. The board has to wait 7 days after the public hearing to consider adoption of the budget. So from a planning standpoint, the board and staff have been working on the proposed budget since December of 2020. The board has held 7 meetings or work sessions specifically to work on the budget. The proposed budget has been advertised in the Farmville Herald and is available for public inspection on the county's website and the county administration office. The total budget is showing an increase of 7.98%. It's going from the current budget of $58,735,393 to $63,426,043. That's an increase of $4,690,650, or again, a 7.98% increase. Local revenue, we're showing an increase in total local revenue from $19,002,086 to $21,830,529, an increase of $2,828,443. Significant portion of that increase, or about $2.6 million, is due to the proposed real estate tax increase and natural estimated increase in personal property tax collections. We're also showing a moderate increase in state revenue from $4,480,485 to $4,615,884, or an increase of $135,399, which represents a 3.02% increase. Gotta be careful if I click too fast, it'll pick them up. There we go. The proposed budget includes a salary increase of 5% for a cost of living adjustment for all positions. If you remember, the General Assembly approved a 5% for comp board funded positions starting July 1. We've projected that for all county employees. Also inquired, as the board asked, what our neighboring jurisdictions are doing. Appomattox is providing a 5% COLA. Amelia's doing a 2.5%, but they did a mid-year increase, so their total will be close to or over 5%. Buckingham is proposing a 5% increase. Charlotte, 5%. Cumberland, 5%. Lunenburg, a 5% COLA and some merit and compensation increases. Nottoway, 5%, and some merit increases, and Prince Edward, 5%. Additional positions in the Prince Edward County Sheriff's Office. We've included a full-time court security position with the increased demands of COVID and security downstairs. Sheriff has asked for an additional full-time position. We've also included a full-time, part-time position being the receptionist in the administration office. Additional funding for other departments, elections officials, we've got an increase of $28,860. The sheriff's office overtime and at-will overtime, we've got an increase of $34,000 in the budget. The sheriff's office courts part-time, again, helping to provide coverage downstairs, increase of $25,494. For the Peavers Rescue Squad, we've got an increase of $12,000. That'll partly make up for their loss of revenue with Cumberland County, and should provide us some additional coverage because they won't be running first due calls in Cumberland. We've got part-time salaries for the cannery position of $32,758, increased demand of services at the cannery. Planning professional services, $8,000. Reassessment, I've included $50,000 in the budget. The board knows, we do our reassessment every 6 years. I think in the past, the county has increased the budget significantly during the 2 reassessment years to cover the cost of that. The way I like to do it is I'd rather budget an even amount across all the years, and therefore at the end of the 6th year, there's enough money to pay for the reassessment. So we wouldn't go from, say, $50,000 one year to $200,000 and back to $50,000. It would be an even amount across the board. General properties, we've got $33,000 in there for equipment. I think that's for a vehicle. Additional funding, we've taken Maggie's position and Kate's position and converted it into a joint tourism and economic development for Chelsea. We've got some additional money in there for part-time help in the tourism office, the visitor center. And then contingency funding. In the past, every time we had an additional increase, you had to have a request to go into your fund balance and do an appropriation. I'd like to see a little bit larger, but this way we've got a $60,000 contingency fund. So if requests come up during the year, you have an account which to dip into and pay out of that. We don't have to keep dipping back into the fund balance. If you don't use it, it slides through at the end of the year back into fund balance. But at least you've identified a source of funding that's available throughout the year to address the request that inevitably will come up each year. So one of the things that we've included in the budget with the equalized tax rate and the proposed 51-cent tax rate is funding for the capital improvement plan. So the capital improvement plan, the board's directed us, the plan commission is in the process of preparing. We're hoping to have it in front of the board for public hearing this fall. Right now, there's $1.4 million included in the draft budget for implementation of the plan. I want to highlight some potential projects of the next few slides that'll talk about some of the needs that we'll be talking about moving forward. Obviously, the capital improvement plan doesn't go into effect until the board adopts it, and then secondarily, you have to appropriate money to be able to fund it. One might ask, are we putting the cart before the horse? Ideally, yes, we would have had the capital improvement plan prepared and adopted before the budget season, but I think the ability to have some funding available will allow us to get a jump start on implementation of the plan. One of the first projects is the Sandy River Reservoir project. As the board knows, we're working on updating the withdrawal permit. The original permit was issued on September 7, 2006, and expires on September 7, 2021, later this year. The permit renewal will enable the county to construct and operate a long-planned water supply system to provide a safe, reliable, and economically viable supply of water. Would not only serve Prince Edward County, but potentially some of our neighboring localities, and support economic development efforts, including the proposed Heartland Technology Park out at the Lockwood property.
Didn't we get that extended or something?
We're
From
in that
September the
process.
7th?
We are currently in the process. We're unfortunately nowhere near the point. We still have to, we're in negotiations with Nottaway County and Burkeville, Blackstone and Crew to try to talk to them about whether or not to include them in our projections. That permit application will have to be filed by, I think, June. And we won't know till later in the year if it's renewed or not. But that's an ongoing process. I had the opportunity, and I appreciate Dr. Pride getting me invited out to take a look at our elementary school. We've got a number of issues there. I got a few pictures here. That's a old roof hatch that was plywooded over, and they put a second roof on top of the existing flat roof, and that one's leaking. You can see it's leaking, and you've got mold around the edge of the hatch there. The roof right there to the right, there's some, you can see some of the seams and stuff that are popping up. There's another section of the roof where the seams are popping up. Most of these seams, that's where your leaks are. In addition, the gravel that's sitting on the roof is ballast, is causing, it's popped through the roof in a number of locations as well. But unfortunately, there are multiple locations, as Dr. Pride and I saw, that are leaking pretty badly. Both of those old roofs need to come off that building and need to be replaced with a new roof at minimum. There we go. This is some pictures of the inside. You can see mold on the wall on the left over there. You've got popping VCT tile in the floor. The picture on the right is a bag that's tied around some of the ductwork to try to catch the water and funnel it down to a hose, which is leading to a 35-gallon trash can below it to catch the water. What happens when it runs, it'll run the ductwork and leak all along that, or an I-beam inside that roof section or ceiling section. This is the site of some of our convenience sites. You've heard me talk about that. I talked about that in the entry plan. The convenience sites we have are great location-wise. They leave a lot to be desired as far as amenities provided to the public. And that goes primarily from potholes and park and access. But you look at the fencing, all that needs to be pulled out, replaced. This site, this is not our county, this is another county, which ideally you'd like is a new fence screen, landscaping along the road, along adjacent properties, a paved entrance where people can pull in without tearing the car up to be able to dump the trash. You also need to have enough compactors and containers and stuff at the sites to be able to accommodate the traffic flow that you have going in. This is the Peepers Rescue Squad building. At a minimum, that building's got a leaky roof over the apparatus section in the back of the building. There's also been comments that I've heard that, you know what, maybe that building's not in the right location. From the standpoint of providing coverage to all of Prince Edward County. I don't know if this is a 5-year or 10-year or 20-year project, but if we're gonna start spending money on helping them with the roof, then we ought to have that discussion. And that'd be a great maintenance building or something else if we needed to convert it to another use. But at some point, the county's gonna have to have a discussion about, is that the right location to provide service to every extent of the county? It doesn't need to be at Downey's Corner, the industrial park, or somewhere else a little more central located. The animal shelter, current facility constructed in the 1970s. It's in need of replacement. It's a great little building, but on the inside at least, a lot to be desired. At some point, we're gonna have to look at replacement of that building. It's one of the things I've talked to Chris about trying to put together for the capital improvement plan. Their submissions are due on May 14th. Emergency radio system. Our communication system has holes. We have communication gaps. I think Luke has asked us in the fire department. We are currently talking with Motorola, at least to try to get an idea of what maybe some recommendations would be to put a requesting for capital improvement plan. I'm a newbie. I don't know whether that means adding a couple towers, which could get expensive, replacement of the radios, combination thereof. But it definitely, from talking to Major Wilmuth, from talking to folks in our fire and rescue system, it's something that we need to take a look at. Landfill compactor. Our current Caterpillar unit has about almost 15,000 hours on it. Jeff has estimated maybe 3 to 5 years of life. I can tell you, at 175 tons or 150 tons, increased trash load is decreasing the life expectancy of that piece of equipment. It's got a replacement cost of $800,000 to $850,000. The way I like to budget, I don't want to wait 5 years and then have to come up with $850,000. I'd rather budget 50 or 75 or 100,000 over a number of years and have a good chunk of the cash to be able to pay for it, or at least maybe then do a lease purchase at a lesser amount once we figure that out. Again, that's another big piece of equipment we got to start planning for. Courthouse Chiller. Dr. Pride, it's a little cool in here tonight, and maybe working very well today, but it's 25 years old, installed in 1996. Randy has had a couple different firms come take a look at it. We spend $10,000 a month in electricity here at the courthouse. I was looking at the bill. The good side is, I think you could see some energy efficiencies, some savings with an upgraded equipment. But the reality is that we're probably on borrowed time within a year or two, really having to do some major repair work on that unit. Shredded roof out of Yakutak. We've got some leaking, in fact, complaints from Yakutak on that. We've already received 3 quotes, we're waiting on a 4th. So it's probably, hopefully somewhere between 25 and 50,000, hopefully on the lower end of that, but that's another piece. You know, some of the options are you can patch it, maybe buy another year or 2 out of it.
Isn't that roof underwater? Didn't we just have that done?
But we didn't do the whole roof.
Not that,
Did not, okay.
that was the one, the shed.
That was
piece
the
in
roof,
back.
I got you.
Yeah. Document management system, our filing system, I'll just bluntly say it's a little disorganized. Sometimes you'll ask us for information and it takes a while for us to get it. A lot of folks are moving to a place where you take all the information, you scan it in, organize it. Ms. Cooper Jones, they ask, can you find this piece of information? And within 30 seconds, you've got a list of the 50 files that meet that criteria. You can print that information out. By the Code of Virginia, you're still required to retain some stuff in hard copy form, but some of the other stuff you can purge, and shred, and get rid of. We've actually got a call coming up later this week with one of the, it's all state contract. We'll get a better idea of the exact cost. The estimate I've got is about 50, but it possibly could come in less. Cannery boiler, the current boiler was manufactured in 1992. It was installed in our building about 20 years ago. That's the bottom of the boiler on the left picture. The boiler's starting to fail. The pipes need to be wrapped to provide insulation. They're unwrapped now. We've got the public in there. It's a good chance they're getting burned or hurt. So Randy wants to spend a few $1,000s to get some pipe wrapped. Now, the retorts are over on the right. That's where you actually can and stuff. Some of those eventually may need to be upgraded or replaced, but right now, the boiler is the primary concern there. At some point, we're going to have to be looking at replacing that unit.
That was one of the first projects Ron did when he came here. Not hard to believe, but.
We just, you have to get every 2 years, I think, get it recertified for insurance purposes, and they just came and take a look at it here a couple weeks ago. So we had a couple things we had to get fixed on it to be ready for this season. From a tourism standpoint, we're working with Farmville Downtown and Town to develop a wayfinding and signage system to get people from 460 bypass into town, into destinations. good thing is, this is something that can be paid for 100% by lodging tax revenue. And that's one of the things that we'll be talking about that later, is to try to identify some funding. And that way the visitors coming here will help pay for the improvements for them.
Does VDOT pay for any of that?
VDOT won't. That's entirely on the localities that come up with cost. Telephone system. Our existing system here is over 15 years old. And the fortunate part is they no longer support it or make parts for it, so you either try to buy aftermarket parts, but basically the CPU, Randy said, if that goes down, you'll be in an emergency situation to replace the whole system, because you won't find nothing of those. So that's one of the other things, and we've actually gotten 4 quotes, waiting on a 5th one coming later this week to try to upgrade that system as well. The good news is we're looking at, voice over IP system, which should save from some of our long distance costs as well. So that's just a snapshot of some of the different projects that we likely will see. There could be some others. So with the reassessment, each penny of real estate now will generate approximately $185,000. So I'd ask Davenport, Jimmy Sanderson, to run the numbers of what is that 185 per penny at the bottom of that chart. It'll show what each penny, so the full 8 cent, that's the difference between 51 and 43, would support the debt of about 22 to 25 million. Now that won't even go as far as building Sandy River. Certainly take care of some of these, like school, maybe a school renovation, but I think a lot of these things are things that you could pay cash for, some of the smaller stuff over a set number of years. And then look at, and I know Supervisor Jones has mentioned the possibility of sales tax increase to be able to take care of some other big school needs. I think it's a great idea as well. But at least what that 8 cents realizes is somewhere between 22 and $25 million based on current market to be able to finance.
What about some of the other, I agreed with Bobby on the 1%, I think that's a great idea. But what about some of the other taxes we talked about, like on the hotels and?
So the lodging tax, we can go, I believe, a minimum of 5%. 2% can go to the general fund, 3% has to go back towards tourism. Maggie had run some numbers. We think it could generate maybe around $50,000, $60,000 a year. And most of ours will be generated from the Airbnbs and the cabins and stuff that are out in the county, because we don't have the vast number of hotels they have in town, but it's a good start. I think meals tax could be a good option. Primarily places like a Fish and Pig are located outside town limits. I think that's something we should pursue. I've asked the commissioner to try to estimate, and some of them, between the Dollar Generals and little small mom and pop stores, that some of their sales would be counted towards meals tax, and it's a matter of trying to figure out what percentage of those sales could help. But yeah, doing a meals tax and dedicating towards capital improvement certainly could, maybe take a couple $100,000 a year.
Well, I mean, to me, 50,000 or a couple $100,000 is, takes care of some of the other things that, you're pointing out we need.
And the last one that's out there, and it's a little more complicated, is cigarette tax. Now, the problem with the cigarette tax is, unlike meals tax, which typically grows, fewer people are smoking, the cigarette tax is declining. So it could generate funds today. Over time, it may not generate what we anticipate generating, but it's certainly an option you can look at. School funding. So the request we received from the school board includes position and cost increases of $605,544. Includes a new transition counselor, a new family support specialist, I think it's an English second language teacher, an ITIS from 10 months to 12 months, 10.6% health insurance premium increase, an update to the finance system. They have their state-supported salary increases of 5%. That's a total cost of $853,859. Total state and federal funding increases total $941,393, which leads the local funding increase requested of $517 and $10, $517,010. And that's right off their sheet they have put together. The actual amount's a little bit less because their debt service amount decreased by about 55,000. So that total 517 number is actually 460 something, I think, Crystal. off the top of my head.
It's, I know we had discussion when we first self-insured our health insurance, about them joining on and they didn't want to. Do you think we need to revisit that with them? Because obviously it's working pretty good for us.
Yeah, let me say this. School systems tend to be more expensive because your participants in the system tend to be mostly female. When I ran the numbers before, we bid it out in my previous life, previous job, it ended up being cheaper for the school system and a lot more expensive for the county side. Just because we pulled everybody together. I think it's certainly something we could ask our folks to take a look at. But, you know, like this year, we saw a 6.2% decrease, but we're trying to increase the funding by 10%, which will help us with family coverage. We think we're gonna make a huge difference next year in family coverage, and be able to help us be a little bit more competitive.
Theirs was up about 16%, wasn't it?
10.
10? Okay.
The board had asked me to do a comparison. So again, our increase of 8 cents in real estate mobile home tax rates, the equalized rate is 43, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And that's based on an 18.27% average increase in assessed values, which, again, we're on a 6-year cycle. That's about 3% per year, which is probably close to CPI. That's not that far out of the norm. And frankly, I think our reassessment was before kind of the housing kind of increase you've seen housing prices here lately. I think if we were doing the reassessment this year, you see housing prices increase quite significantly more.
Right.
Because I'm looking at sales compared to even the new assessed values. And it's quite a bit of increase. But our adjacent localities, Appomattox, they are advertised at a 63-cent rate, which is the same as 2020. Amelia, 51-cent tax rate, same as 2020. Buckingham, 52, which is the same. Charlotte, 62, same. Cumberland's actually looking to go down from 77 to 75. That has partly to do with the new landfill operation, which will generate a lot more income for Cumberland County. Lunenburg is going to stay at 38 cents, not away at 40, which is lowest in the state. And Prince Edward's at 51. So based on the advertised rates at 51, we're tied for the third lowest with Amelia in our region. Equalized rate, just a little clarity on equalization of the rates. So we had an 18.27% increase in assessed values across the county. That's the average. So what does that mean? That's we take a look at the dollars generated from the 2020 pre-assessment value times the 51-cent rate. And that has to generate the same revenue as the post-assessment values at the 43-cent rate. So the equalized value, we have to look and make sure it can't generate any more new revenue. So by law, we lower it from 51 to 43, or whatever rate the board advertised, which is the 51, is shown as an increase.
But you anticipate the final rate's gonna be 43?
It would be 43 to equalize it. We've advertised 51, so the board will ultimately determine on the 27th where that rate will be.
But it will be lowered from 51, right?
If the board decides to do
It can be between the 43 and the 51.
that. Can't go higher than 51.
I understand that.
But the important thing is the base budget is basically balanced at 43 cents. Done a little sample reassessment and tax impact chart. We have three different homeowners, homeowner A, B, and C. Homeowner A, their old value was $200,000. And at 51 cents last year, they paid $1,020 in tax. If their assessment, that's the big word, if their assessment went up by 18.27%, it would go up to $236,540 as an assessed value. At the 51 cents rate, they would pay $1,206.35. That would be an increase of $186.35 in taxes. Homeowner B, it would go up from $1,275 to $1,507, increase of $232.94. Homeowner C, a $300,000 value, would go up to $354,810, an increase of $279.53. I say the big if because some people's values may have gone up 10%, which a lot of commercial properties went up. And land prices typically were lower than raw land prices, lower than 18.27%. Some of the single-family homes could have gone up higher than 18.27%.
Mine went from 267 to 340. So that's pretty,
You remember, you remember what your percentage is off the top of your head? Mr. Wells?
I don't remember.
It's probably still under where the market is. My
Yeah, it
guess.
is. In my case, it is.
So, proposed rate of 51 cents is an 8-cent increase over the equalized rate of 43. The operating budget is balanced at 43 cents. Each penny over 43 provides approximately $185,000 in revenue. $1.4 million has been budgeted for future capital improvements. We would propose that any reduction from the advertised rate, we would remove it out of that capital improvement line. This last chart, I know you can't read it from your seat, basically just takes it from 43 on the left side to 51 and how much would be removed out of that. So you pull it, at 50, you take 185,470 out, at 49, 379.40, at 48, 556, 410, and so on and so on, going down to the 43 cent. Last thing I want to wrap up was just do a little comparative shopping here for my neighbors. The state comparative report is published annually. We are not in the 20 report yet. We had our 19 audit, which was late coming out, and we had our 20 audit out. So they haven't updated the 20 data to include Prince Edward. So I took 19, which is the last year available. Prince Edward compared to our neighboring jurisdictions, Appomattox, Amelia, Buckingham, Charlotte, Cumberland, Lunenburg, and Nottoway. We're 8th out of 8th in total expenditures per capita. We spend $2,023.58 per person on all our services. So we're 8th out of 8. Education at an operational level, we're 8th at $1,119.20. And health and welfare, we're 8th out of 8. Now, I'm not saying we're cheap. I'm saying we get a great return on our investment. I think our people do a good job for what we provide to our community. I just want to respond when I hear folks talk about we spend too much money or as far as the investment. We're 7th out of 8 in general government administration, public works, law enforcement, traffic control, and public library support. We're below the average of adjacent localities in all categories except correction and detention. And that's really driven by the number of folks we have incarcerated, public safety, community development. From an economic development standpoint, I'm sure that's part of what's driving the community development piece. So based on the advertised tax rates of our neighbors, again, we would be the third lowest rate at 51, tied with Amelia. Mr. Chairman, I've finished with my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions, either now or after the two public hearings.
Are there any questions for Doug at this point?
Yeah, to go back to my former question, I've got a lot of people asking me because their houses have gone up significantly and whatnot. Are we going to be lowering the rate to offset that? And I don't really have an answer.
And so we'll go through the public hearings tonight, and then I'm sure y'all will deliberate next week and make that ultimate decision. You know, again, as Ms. Booth mentioned, it could be as high as 51 and can go down to the 43 or somewhere in between. And if you have any individual that says, hey, I want to know how my property would be impacted, I would certainly, like I've done for y'all, I can run the numbers to look at that as well.
I'm not hearing a lot of screaming in my district because most of them, you know, if it's a couple $100 more, $300 more, it's not really a big factor, but, I'm sure in some of the other areas, there will be.
Sir.
We're gonna open the public hearing, so because we're a minute or two late. Is there anyone online? We'll open it.
This is the first one dealing with the tax.
This is the tax levy,
CDA,
CDA,
EMS.
that's correct, EMS. Do you have one person online? All right, we're gonna open this as a public hearing. Whoever's online, do you have any questions for us or comments, or are you just listening in? I guess they're just listening in. If there's no one here or on the phone has any questions, we're going to close the public hearing on that. You have a,
No, so again, just reiterating, that'd be closing the hearing on the EMS tax rate, the real estate rate, and the Poplar Hill CDA rate.
correct? I guess we can go ahead and open it on the next one, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And that will be for the, yeah, hit that gavel.
That's for the fiscal year 2021, 2022 budget.
I'm going to open the public hearing on that. Is there anyone online that would like to speak to the budget?
Is this school and the county?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, this is both.
What page is that on?
11.
Page of
What?
Oh, I'm sorry.
17.
I was looking on this.
Oh,
That's on page 17.
17, she
Yeah.
said.
17.
Okay, thanks.
There you go, you can close.
27 is the first page of the actual,
actual budget.
yeah.
Sorry.
I guess hearing no one from the public, we're going to close the public hearing on that. And I guess we actually wait until the 27th to decide on rates and things anyway. Is that correct, Doug?
Yes, sir. And you may get feedback between now and then from your constituents on the proposed budget and rates as well.
I got one thing in your presentation that hit me that it's, in the past, when we look at what we give to our public schools compared to surrounding counties, we give more because our composite index is usually, however it would be up and down, makes us pay more in other county counties. And I took my own surprise to see us rated either 7th or 8th
Eighth.
in school funding.
That was for the 18-19 FY19. I don't know about last year.
I think pretty much every year I've ever noticed, we fund quite a bit more.
Quite a bit more than most.
I know Charlotte County, good God, their composite index is very favorable to them.
I've got the specific numbers. I think I've given y'all that worksheet, but I can send that to you again that looks at, again, it's per capita or per student in the case of the school system. I can share those specific numbers, and that does not include debt service. That's only operational costs.
Yeah, okay, well, our debt services, well, it's going relative. There are a whole lot of schools that will higher debt service than we do.
A lot higher.
Our debt number is pretty low, which is good relatively.
Well, there's no doubt that seeing some of the slides and things that there's, and I've gotten some emails this week also on the roof system out there. It's something we're gonna have to deal with
I agree with
soon.
that.
And it's, I think the biggest thing for me, it's the roof, but really we need to look at, before we put $1 into it, what is the total need of the building? Because you've got, I mean, some of the bathrooms are in pretty poor shape, Mr. Chairman. Some of those wall sections need to be replaced. You've got a lot of repainting. Some things aren't necessarily expensive, but The other thing I think is available is that, there's kind of energy savings monies out there, meaning they're all incandescent bulbs. You could fluorescent. You could go in there and put LED lighting and save a lot. The HVAC systems, you may be able to save a lot.
All that deal we did with, Honeywell.
Yeah, exactly.
And how, those roofs they replaced on those buildings are holding up great, right?
I think so.
But that was, we'll call them up again and see if they can, but I guess they pretty much went through they did the whole campus or just the,
Middle school. Middle school.
okay, yeah, right.
That was middle school.
Yeah, I think the opportunity's there at that building to put some energy efficient savings in there, and maybe, it's not just like here with the chiller. I mean, we're spending, Crystal, this much was $11,000, I think, for,
The lowest I've seen in 3 years is around $9,600.
yeah. So,
I was gonna say, it's been as high as 12 or 13, hasn't it?
Oh, that's still, that's that wood
Right
burn.
there, got cranked up, that's right, exactly right.
Got plenty of
Got plenty of stuff.
stuff
Burn,
to
it's
burn.
up to burn right now, that's right. Sure the state be glad to bring it on down for us.
Yeah, put it on that a little bit.
That's right, exactly right. Are there any other questions from the board?
I think he must be sick.
Anything else, Doug, that you know of that we need to?
no, sir, I want to appreciate all the staff, especially Crystal. She's put a lot of yeoman's job in helping us pull all this stuff together. Certainly being my first budget here, I think we've done a reasonably good job. It's been complicated, of course, with the reassessment. It adds a lot of different steps into the process. But I'm pleased that we've been able to produce a budget to balance it at the equalized rate, including giving the schools what they've requested. The biggest thing from a staff standpoint are the 5% raise and being able to make a significant reduction on the health insurance. We'll be presenting that to you at your May meeting. It looks like preliminarily our lower plan currently, it's $1,100 per month for the employee cost, and we think we're going to be able to get that into the $700 range. So that'll make it more affordable for folks to be able to try to afford their health insurance.
That would be,
And that's kind of in line with what some of our neighbors are. I know, yeah, it is. I knew, one employee we brought over from Cumberland, there was over a $300 difference in just the family coverage.
There's around 800, yeah,
Yep.
big difference.
Doug, I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
The surrounding counties that you notified or you looked up to see what the real estate rate was, did any of those go through a reassessment?
Nobody this year,
Okay.
because I asked that question as well, and nobody this year. Last year was,
I think Cumberland was last year.
yeah, in Buckingham. There's like
Buckingham,
two of
yeah.
them, I think, had gone through it last year, I think. Yeah.
Charlotte's gonna be next.
Yeah, the good thing is I think everybody's kind of on a different cycle scale, but, so a couple of them have gone through it here recently. So their values should be up closer to what ours should be now. I think down the road, we may want to look at going to like a 4-year cycle, whether it's after the next 6-year cycle or not. Typically, localities have a lot of state and federal. If we have a lot of state corporation commission stuff, you want that ratio to be as close to 100% as possible, because otherwise you're losing money. But I think this time, we really, a lot of the commercial properties are not, they're going to get a tax break because they're dropped considerably less than that 18%.
Well, I think too, our ratio was, when they started this reassessment, we were still in the 90 percentile.
You're in good shape. Yeah, you're in good
So, I
shape.
mean, that's why it didn't go up as much as it.
But I bet, my guess is that with the way the housing market's moved already, we're going to be coming off that 100% pretty quick this year. I don't know, who knows, maybe in a couple of years we'll have a housing bust, but for the next couple of years, I would think the way the market is right now is pretty hot.
we talked about one time doing a yearly assessment of a certain percentage of the properties in the county. If, I think we were going to 6 year, we could do it a 4-year too, though, right?
Correct.
Good.
We could capture some of these.
Well, the other thing, honestly, and I talked to Beverly a little bit, is about proration at some point. I don't think the commissioner's office is staffed to be able to handle that right now, but maybe in a couple years down the road, because you lose revenue. I think this year, Dominion and their contractors are bringing a lot of equipment to do cleanup. They're gonna bring it in like September, October, but you won't get a dime of that because they're bringing it in after January 1. So, you hope it's still here next January and you can get some of that revenue for next year. But, proration allows you to pick up some of that part of the year.
I will make a suggestion, though, if the board does decide to do the proration, to please start it on the real estate first, before the personal property. It would help them to get used to it on the real estate.
You'll be able to pick those houses up as they come online.
Right, but I mean, the real estate transfers are not as great as
Yeah.
how many personal property or accounts they have.
Beverly, I talked to you some time ago about this, but if we go with prorated system, you indicated that you thought it would generate more money
On the real estate, I'm not so sure on the vehicles, no.
on personal property.
We did a study on it a couple of years ago, and just asked surrounding counties that did the proration on the vehicles, and they could not see a significant increase.
And you also said you probably have to add
Could possibly, yes.
I think that's what you want to do, because if you got a position cost with salary and benefits, you're talking $50,000 to $60,000 total. You want to at least generate more than twice that, but make it worthwhile.
Exactly. Mhm.
At least pay its way.
Yeah.
Anything else from the board? Guess we will adjourn.
We'll recess.
Recess until. Well, I'm gonna make a motion to recess until April 27th at 7 PM.
So moved.
It's been properly made and seconded. Ms. Pride?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Patty Cooper?
Yes.
Beverly?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Bobby? Lou?
Yes,
All right. So done.
April 27th.
April 27th at 7.
7.
7,
Next Tuesday.
next Tuesday.